having your horse long and low or stretching them is something I do quite often. It's always part of my warm-up routine, but I also sometimes do a whole session of it. And most people would think, oh, well, this is kind of a chilled out session for a horse, but I actually don't think it is. I think it can be quite a workout for them and for the rider. There are loads of benefits to working your horse long and low. It's good for the suppleness, it's good for their rhythm, it's good for relaxation, it's good for engagement, it improves balance, the regularity of their paces. Like, I could go on, the list is endless. And you just find they can really start to soften, they get that swing through their back. And Corporal is the king of stretching. He's always been very good at it. And with a session, it's not all about just going round with them stretched out. I like to add bits in. So, for example, I quite like to do transitions while having them down. Now, as a rider, I actually think it's quite hard to do like a schooling session with them stretched, because you can't rely on your hands. It's quite a good test. You can't rely on your hands. You have to use more core strength. You have to kind of really sit up, use your legs and seat. And it's good for you. It's really, really good for you. So lots of transitions can be really good. As you can see here, I've had to do it in the distance. It's not the greatest filming, but you can see trying to keep the horse soft, long and low and stretching while doing transitions can be quite tricky. If your horse isn't the best at stretching, I find putting them on a circle, a little bit of inside bend, and then softening the hand can be really helpful. Make sure with your outside rein that you also offer that forward so you don't restrict them. Also, a little bit of back and forth while you're stretching your horse. So ask them to move on and in front of your leg, make sure they go forward, and then bring them back, all the time not allowing them to come back up where possible. So trying to keep them stretching. You can see here, Corporal has come up a little bit when I've sent him forward, but it's really good. You really find you having to use your leg and your seat aids to bring them back and not totally rely on your hand is much harder than you think it's going to be. You can see here I'm doing a little bit of bending, so I'm flexing him to the inside and to the outside, all again trying to keep a little bit of a stretch. You can see he's definitely come up now, but again, this is so good for getting them to stretch over their backs, great for that suppleness, their flexibility. But what I love is the rhythm stays so even when they're stretching. There's such a lovely regularity to it and an evenness, and just the relaxation, the swing. His tail was lovely and lifted, but he felt really loose. So I really like stretching, especially to the outside. I find that can be really handy. Remember, Corporal's 21, doesn't do as much schooling anymore, so he was looking pretty good. So I'm just giving Coop a little breather in between his session. And I think lots of people think doing like a stretchy session, as I'd call it, or, a stretching schooling session, or whatever you want to call it, is a bit of a cop-out, kind of, the horse doesn't have to work too hard, they just have a bit of a stretch, good for loosening up the muscles, which it all is. But actually I think it's quite a workout for both horse and rider. Rider-wise, when the horse is stretching so down, you can't, which is good, use your hands too much. It's not possible. So for all those transitions and, making the rhythm go forward and back, it's really quite hard because you have to use your core strength. You can't rely on your hands. So it's great for the rider. But for the horse, actually, again, the rider isn't supporting them as much, so the horse has to carry themselves. Now, admittedly, it is long and low, not, collected, but that doesn't mean it's not quite difficult for them. And certainly with Corporal, I find that he gets quite fast because actually he doesn't enjoy having to sort of hold himself in this position and stretch over his back without me kind of carrying him along with my hands, or without him leaning on my hands. And he's not a horse that generally leans on them anyway, but you'll be surprised if you do a whole session getting them to stretch long and low. Actually, it can be a lot harder when you start to add bits in. So rather than just trotting around school stretching them, when you add in transitions and bending, all that, actually it's a little bit harder for the horse than you think. So it's definitely a worthwhile session doing. So I am now going to pop him into Canter and do a little bit in Canter. He got quite cross with me in the middle, actually. I think he was finding it hard and got a little grumpy. But let's try the Canter. Moving on to the Canter. So I did find I couldn't have Corporal quite so stretched over his back in the Canter work. I should also add that I'm doing this all on a circle because of the camera, and that if I wasn't filming this, I would use a whole arena and not just always be on a circle. But obviously a circle does help when it comes with the bending and stretching. The interesting thing with the Canter work is I found that drifting occurred a lot more. So he tended to drift out of his outside shoulder. And because I wasn't using my hands and I was asking him to stretch, I found I really, like, I made my outside leg have to wake up and work, because I was suddenly like, my goodness, I'm losing him. And, you know, the leg just wasn't working quite hard enough there. Again, in the canter work, like I did in the trot, a lot of bending to the inside, then flexing him back to the outside, bending him around my inside leg, then flexing him back to the outside. I found that really helped create a good quality rhythm. The suppleness really came through then. I mean, honestly, the canter felt wonderful. I felt like I could just really sit. He was surprisingly steady. You know, he wasn't rushing. He was just taking his time in the canter, and it was beautiful. It felt really just gorgeous, really, to sit to. And then what's lovely to see as well is that he's really tracking up through the canter, also adding some transitions, and quite hard to go from canter to trot when they're quite stretched over their backs. You have to really use your seat to kind of collect them without, you know, wanting to take that pull. Honestly, it really does highlight just how handy you can be. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a particularly handy rider, but even I was sort of finding myself drawing the hands back, and I was thinking, no, push them down, let the horse stretch. But he did, he felt absolutely wonderful. And even from the canter to the trot, he just got more and more loose and free, and just found it easier and easier. It was a really good session. I came out feeling really positive, and, you know, I felt we had both worked really hard. Good morning. I was wondering how many more of you are doing these early morning rides at the moment. It's absolutely beautiful, but I have to say it's killing me at the same time getting up so early every morning. But I must appreciate it, because in the middle of winter I'll miss these lovely mornings, and it's cool and the horseflies aren't out, and it's just nice, isn't it? Got this lady with me. She's coming out for a doodle. She's had 2 days off actually, so she's pretty happy to be out. And we're just going to go for a nice jolly round the roads, and it's quiet. I mean, there are cars about, but it's, compared to, you know, normal hours, it's a delight out here. Mr. Coop is actually having quite the week. He's doing more work than he normally does. Yeah, ready to hit another day. I do feel quite tired, I'm not going to lie. So the horses are out in a new pen. I've got to get arty, but yeah, I kind of let this pen get a bit too long, and it's not the nicest of grasses when it gets this much length on it. I find the horses don't particularly love it, but anyway, it's a bit too long to cut now, so they're going to have to try and give it a bit of a trim. And this was meant to be my autumn pens, but they're going to need to trim them before that. So they're out here, which I think they should hopefully, it was probably nicer than the bottom. The bottom really didn't have much left. So yeah, lucky gang. Sienna was right out hacking. I hardly want to swing the camera around because her rug is disgusting. Corporal's rug seems to stay pretty clean. I mean, he's a good boy. He obviously doesn't, I mean, he can't really sleep in his mess really in that big pen of his. But Sienna, on the other hand, look at that rug. It's disgusting. She's a bit gross, isn't she? She definitely sleeps in her pee. She's a bit funny out hacking today. The first 20 minutes, she was very happy, very bright today, and ears pricked, having a lovely time. But once she gets around the 20-minute mark, she's a bit over it. She's a bit past the fun. She's like, yeah, I'm done now. What are we going to do that's more fun than this? Yeah, she's quite keen to have like a trot, and I mean, there's only so much trotting you want to do on the road with a 4-year-old, and that's really not a lot. Yeah, and she was just sort of like, you could just see she got bored really quickly today, and was a bit like, this is really uninteresting. I need something more inspiring. I was thinking, she is a bit like that, you know, she does get bored really easily. She needs a lot to keep her mentally interested, which I don't know if I'm slightly terrified about or happy about. In, you know, hopefully she'll be up for harder work as she gets older, and she'll thrive off of it, but at the same time keeping her entertained and interested and is going to be difficult, I think. Anyway, she was very good to lead, but she just, yeah, the last part of the hack, she was very much like, oh, trotting off and then sort of trotting in front of Corporal just to make life more difficult, and smelling the road, smelling the verge, falling up the verge, all that, because she just sort of, she'd sort of been bored of just looking around and was making her own entertainment, as it would seem. But anyway, she was very good though. Oh, I need to go and turn the electric fence on, I just realised. Yeah, they should be much happier out there. I mean, it looks lovely. So, cool. Corporal might eat the long grass. Don't you find all horses have a different thing that they like? Like Artie hates long grass, not his thing at all. But I have a feeling, having looking Corporal now, Corporal's quite up for the long grass. Anyway, they're not going to go out for very long today. They're only going to go till about midday, because I don't, when you put that on long new grass, I don't really like leaving that for too long. I don't want anyone getting colic or anything like that. So yeah, you're not going to be out there for too long, guys. Anyway, for the next few days, I'll probably do about 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours out there, just to help settle their stomachs into it. It's not ideal for Artie, because he has got a pen. I think if you look up there, he's got a little pen there that I've made him, but it's not ideal for his fat to fit, because obviously any grass of this length is just going to make him fat, and he's coming from quite a bare pen, but he has to be next door to him, and it's not really very fair to leave him at the bottom of the field with no grass. So we're just going to have to watch him a little bit, and he may fluctuate in his weight a little bit and go up and down a bit, but we'll get there. We'll get on top of him. Once he's eaten that grass down, then it'll be much easier. So he's going to have a few days of loveliness, scoffing his face, and then it's back to the diet for him. Hi guys, I thought I would finish off this Sunday's vlog. I actually filmed it, I think I filmed it on Monday, and it's now Friday, so I thought, I can finish it up, and then I can get on and edit it and get it ready to go out on Sunday. I really enjoyed the long low session. It's something I thought, I need to do more of, really, because the whole session of it was just really, I mean, I thought Copper went really well. Watch my leg, watch my leg, watch my leg. Good girl. I thought he really benefited from it, and it made me work really hard too, so I've definitely incorporated it into a lot of my workhorses work this week, so that's been fun, and definitely something that I need to do a little more of. It's a bright path I've never been down before, but it's nice, and it's jolly long as well, and it's just nice to get off the road. And also, anyone else really excited when you go somewhere different? It just feels exciting compared to doing the same routine hack. So yeah, so that's really my week. It has been a busy one. I have to say I've slightly not done so well on riding my lot, just because it just hasn't been the time. So Sienna has had a bit of a quiet week, like I thought she would. That doesn't matter. She can afford to have some time off. The main thing for me is getting her back into work, because she always goes a little bit wild when she hasn't been sat on for a few days. She's all right after 2, but when it gets to kind of 4 or 5 days, she seems to forget about having a saddle on her back very quickly. So I don't want to give her too long off, but it's quite windy today, so I'm not sure I'm going to get back on her tonight. Might have to be over the weekend. We will see. Anyway, enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next week with another one.